have nothing else to say. So we're going to now let Crystel take over. And if you want to use a microphone.
Can you guys hear me without the microphone? Yes. Okay. The microphone kind of makes me sound like robotic a little bit. I don't want to sound like a robot the whole time I'm up here. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and for inviting me to speak to you all today. Um, it's okay. It's okay. Bernard, and I also met you when I spoke to the Suburban Writers Club. You were on Zoom, but that's when it kind of clicked to you that I should probably come speak here. So I was saying, I hope no one was there because he's like, I want you to give the same speech. So hopefully no one was there and heard this speech. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here amongst fellow writers. A lot of you are way more experienced than me. I call myself a baby writer because this all came out of nowhere, and I'm gonna share some of that with you as I go through my talk. So I want to start with a quote that really resonates with my mission as an author. And let me go to the next slide so you guys can see it. And so it's a quote by Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. When children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn powerful lessons about how they are devalued in the society of which they are a part. I love this quote. It really underscored the critical importance of diversity in children's books for me. And as an author of my Inspired to Be book series, which you guys have been looking at, which aims to inspire all children with stories of Black excellence and achievement, this quote deeply resonates with me. In fact, it's on the back of the author flyer that's over there. Like, I really live by this quote. The funny thing is, I never actually imagined that I would find my calling in the world of children's literature. I'm actually ashamed to admit it in this room full of writers, but writing was never a passion or even a hobby for me. I actually followed the path of mathematics and science, earning my degree in engineering at UC Berkeley and building a 13-year career in technology consulting. So writing actually seemed worlds apart from what my reality was. However, life has a way of surprising us, of weaving twists and turns into our narratives. And one of those twists just happens to be the reason why I'm standing before you today, not only as an author, but as the creator of my children's book series, a series that now has 5 books, with many more stories waiting to come to life. So the shift for me from numbers and equations to storytelling might sound improbable, but it became a journey of self discovery and purpose for me. So today I want to share with you how I embarked on that journey and how I'm using my work to increase diversity in children's books, how I'm using my work to uplift and amplify positive stories and images of Black people so that all children can be inspired. Yes, I say all children because while it's essential for children to see themselves in books they read, it's equally vital for them to encounter children who also don't look like them. And hopefully, this is not a rare occasion for them. And when they do see images of children who don't look like them, hopefully the images aren't distorted, negative, and laughable. So now let's rewind to 2020, a year etched in our memories for various reasons. Not only were we in the midst of a global pandemic, as you all remember, but we also bore witness to a seismic social justice movement. It was a year of reflection and reckoning, and in these challenging times, a pivotal moment unfolded in my life. I apologize for anyone who is offended by this, but this is truly my story and a question that my son posed to me. In the days following the murder of George Floyd, my then 8-year-old son, Troy, posed a question that pierced my heart. He asked me what you see on the screen. Mommy, why do police keep killing Black people? Now, up until that moment, I was used to him asking me all sorts of crazy questions. Questions like, Mommy, where do babies come from? Mommy, if I swallow a watermelon seed, will a watermelon tree grow in my tummy? Why do kids have to go to bed early? In fact, he's now 12 years old, And just earlier this week, he asked me, Mommy, why do people have to get married? But at the tender age of 8, he was asking me, Mommy, why do police keep killing Black people? And that's not a question that I was used to getting from him, nor was I prepared for it. This loaded question from my 8-year-old son stopped me dead in my tracks and reminded me that our children are paying attention. They are absorbing the world around them, and they are grappling with complex issues. And as a mother, my immediate instinct was to reassure my son that his future was going to be different and that he would be safe. But I was still bothered by this question because I had to sit with the fact that my son was learning powerful lessons about his value and his place in society by current events, lessons that were negative and detrimental. So a few nights later, during our bedtime routine, my younger son Silas, who was 3 at the time, picked out his favorite book at the time, Good Night, Construction Site. This is a good one. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a New York Times bestseller by Sherry Dusky Rinker. And I don't know if any of you have grandchildren who are obsessed with construction vehicles, or maybe when you had your kids, if they were obsessed with construction vehicles, but my child takes it to another level. He has the toy version of every single construction vehicle that has ever existed, because this has been his request every birthday, every Christmas, every opportunity there is to get a gift. This has been his request. And he's now 6 years old, and that hasn't changed. This has started when he was 2. So he has construction vehicles that I am learning a lot about that I didn't know existed. So let's do a quick test. Raise your hand if you know what a bulldozer is. Yeah. Raise your hand if you know what an excavator is. Yeah. Raise your hand if you know what a dump truck is. Yeah, see, I expected all of you to raise your hand because those are like the Michael Jordan, the LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant of construction vehicles. But here's a real tough one. Raise your hand if you know what a telehandler is. A telehandler. Yeah, see? So he has taught me a lot about construction vehicles. Sometimes I come downstairs to find that he has converted our entire living room to a full-blown construction site. So it makes sense, right? Why this bedtime story about construction vehicles would be his favorite. So like I was saying, Silas picked out this book for our bedtime story. And while he's pretty much reciting the book to his brother and me, because he literally had it memorized at the age of 3, my mind started to wander. Now go on this journey with me. So much of what people believe is shaped by what they learn when they are children. Books help to shape our minds, and when books are relatable and enjoyable, like Good Night, Construction Site, we remember them. Even as adults, I'm willing to bet that Silas will remember this book when he's older. Like, really think back to when you all were little. I'm sure there are certain books that's sticking out in your minds. What about those books made you hold on to them well into adulthood? What if there were more books that were relatable and enjoyable, like Good Night, Construction Site, but also packed important and meaningful messages? Messages that matter, and messages that children really need to hear, and messages that they can remember and hold on to as they grow up. I'm talking about life lessons. What if the main characters in these books were Black, so that Black children can see themselves being represented positively in the stories they read? Now, before you start thinking, what about other races? Keep in mind, this is my train of thought because of the question that my son, a Black boy, asked me. But really, this statement applies to any underrepresented group. Okay, back to my train of thought. What if the messages in these books were universal, so that any child, regardless of race, can enjoy and draw inspiration from these books that just so happen to have main characters who are Black? What if these books were inspired by real people, so that children can make a real connection to the messages and be able to say, wow, if they can do that, then so can I. That is real inspiration. Could this be a way to shift the narrative from negative to positive? Rather than kids focusing on all the bad things that are happening to Black people, could this help elevate the many positive things, showing them Black people who are thriving Black people who are role models, and Black people who aren't victims. And just like that, the vision of my book series, Inspired to Be, came to me. But keep in mind, at that time, writing was not a passion or even a hobby for me. So how dare I have the audacity to say that I would write a whole book series? Not just one book, but like the whole series. There I was, a career-driven woman with a background in engineering and working in the high-powered technology field. Aside from writing proposals for technology solutions, which is a completely different type of writing, the closest I've come to creative writing since graduating from college was crafting the occasional clever social media post. Now I had this grand idea of writing a book series, something that should have felt as probable as finding a four-leaf clover on the first drive. But with a vision as clear as this one, and for the thing that sparked it, my son's haunting question, how dare I not have the audacity to write this book series? So I snapped out of my trance right as Silas finished reciting Goodnight construction site. As a mother, I knew that my children deserve these types of books, books that reflect their experiences and celebrate their potential. So I decided in that moment that I would write these types of books. I tucked both kids in, went to my room and called my husband, who hadn't made it home yet. I told him what I was about to do because, of course, I knew I would need an accountability partner. And after I hung up the phone, I immediately started researching. So, fast forward almost 4 years from that night, I stand here before you, having written and published 5 books. Each book in my series serves as a testament to Dr. Bishop's words. They feature main characters who are Black, creating narratives that celebrate diversity while conveying valuable life lessons. They draw inspiration from real life heroes and role models, breaking barriers and showing children that they can do the same. They are inspiring, relatable, and memorable. They are Black inspiration, and you can see what I mean by that shortly. So let me introduce you to my first book, One Flip, Two Flip, Three Flip, Four. It tells the story of Ruby, a young girl who, out of pure boredom, flipping from couch to couch, discovers her passion for gymnastics. With the encouragement and support from her tribe, Ruby pursues gymnastics competitively and learns that she can achieve anything she sets her mind to. Now, each of my books is inspired by a real person, like I mentioned earlier. And so this book is inspired by Gabby Douglas, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. Gabby made history as the first African American to win an Olympic individual all around gold medal. She was 16 years old at the time. And that's what I mean when I say Black inspiration. So I remember one of my first times reading this book at an event. There just so happened to be a little girl in the audience who already had a copy of this book at home. As I read the book, she recited it right along with me. It reminded me of my son Silas and his favorite book, Goodnight Construction Site. One of the things I wanted my books to be was memorable, and that little girl showed me that that's exactly what it was. Since then, I've had a lot of similar experiences, and it's truly an incredible and validating feeling every single time. So my second book is called I Am Different, and the person on the phone is familiar with this one. And it explores the journey of 3 children who are confronted with their differences. They experience teasing by other children for their unique qualities, but are also receive praise by their families and friends for those very qualities. So they are left confused about how to feel about their differences and who they should believe. This book aims to inspire children to embrace what makes them different, recognizing that being different is something that we should all cherish. So I Am Different draws inspiration from Harris Rogers, who is a young girl who faced bullying due to her dark skin complexion. This experience led her to create Flexin' and My Complexion, which is a clothing line promoting self-love. At the age of 11, she became the youngest fashion designer to feature her work at New York Fashion Week. And I like to tell kids that it also shows us that we're never too young to make a difference, not just that she's inspiring us to love our differences. That's what I mean when I say Black inspiration. This is my number one request when I do author visits to schools because it is in fact a very real issue our children are struggling with. What I didn't expect, however, was for this book to be so meaningful for adults as well. I can sit here and tell you so many stories of encounters with adults who respond so emotionally to this book and tell me that they wish they had a book like this when they were growing up. Childhood trauma is real, and it feels good to know that this book will play a role in reducing childhood trauma for this generation and future generations of children. My third book, Superheroes Here and There, celebrates everyday heroes and their defining characteristics. It encourages children to recognize and appreciate these traits in others and to aspire to embody these traits themselves. This book is inspired by Chadwick Boseman. He was best known as an actor who portrayed African American icons and heroes like Jackie Robinson, James Brown, and Thurgood Marshall. Most memorable for kids, though, was when he played the role of T'Challa in Black Panther. He was the superhero that Black people had been waiting for on screen. But it was truly the traits he embodied off screen, like courage, selflessness, determination, kindness, and integrity, that made him a real life superhero in my eyes. Like the times he turned down roles that would perpetuate harmful or outdated Black stereotypes, even very early on in his career where he didn't have much leverage. And all the times he spoke out against racism, or the time he offered a part of his salary to his pay to his co-star, who he felt was worth more than what she was being offered, or his many, many acts of kindness for children who were battling cancer when he himself was secretly dying from his own cancer. And that is what I mean when I say Black inspiration. Some of you may know that Chadwick Boseman passed away, and his death is actually what inspired me to write this book. An elementary school literacy coach reached out to me to let me know how much of a struggle it is to find literature that gets boys interested in reading. She told me how excited the boys in her reading group were to read this book, and that made my day. Though my books are all gender neutral, like we were talking about, regardless of who is on the cover, it's amazing to know that this book is helping to address a specific need for our young boys. My fourth book, we're almost there, Too Young to What, is about a little boy named Dante. Dante has big dreams, but he keeps getting told that he's too young and he needs to wait till he gets older. Dante takes it upon himself to share with the readers 10 trailblazing real children who have accomplished great things despite their age. Now, this book attempts to question or challenge the question that we as adults often pose to children. What do you want to be when you grow up? Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the intent of the question because I ask it as well. But I believe that the words limit them and puts them in a box. It implies that they have to grow up first before they can do the thing that they want to do. That when in reality, they may not have to wait. They might dream of something that they can do right now. They may not be able to do it all by themselves. They may need some encouragement, some support, some resources, but they can do it, right? This book is a bit different from the other books in that it takes a step in the creative nonfiction realm. So all the other books were fictional, inspired by real people. This one is actually nonfiction. Dante himself is a fictional character, but the examples that Dante gives are real children and their real stories. Because I felt like with a message like this one, I might as well make it as real as possible for children reading the book. I'm talking about a poet, a CEO, a philanthropist, a motivational speaker, a chef, an inventor, and so much more. Truly inspiring. And yes, as an author, sorry, I skipped the page. And even though it's nonfiction, I attempt to keep it fun and light with rhyming and repetition, similar to the other books in the series, to make it easy for the children to absorb the information being presented. And who the book is inspired by? This book is actually inspired by someone that you all probably never heard of. His name is Machel Montano, and he is the king of soca. Soca is a genre of music originating from Trinidad, which is where I'm from, and he's from. Machel's music career began at the age of 7. 3 years later, he released Too Young to Soca. Sounds familiar? Like the book, Too Young to What? And it became an instant hit. Despite being told he was too young to be a soca artist, he still pursued his dream and has reached great heights in his career. In 2022, he celebrated 40 years, 40, as a soca artist. And he's literally the best to ever do it, and he's still going strong. So imagine being 7 years old and being told that you're too young to do something that you want to do so badly, and you find a way to do it anyways, right? You make it happen, and then 40 years later, you're still doing that thing, you're thriving in it, you're excelling, you're breaking boundaries, right? That is what I mean when I say Black inspiration. When I read this book to schools, at schools, the children almost always say that they never heard of any of the children featured in this book, and they are always left feeling so inspired about what they can do after hearing these stories of other children. So it's all about exposure, and I hope you guys see the theme here. The people that the books are inspired by aren't the most famous people, because I don't want kids to feel like in order to be successful, they have to be super famous. I want to expose them to regular people who are doing great things. All right. Finally, my most recently published book, Sparkle Getty Becomes a Problem Solver, is about a little girl who is on a quest to conquer a common childhood challenge, eating spaghetti with ease. Through creativity, determination, and a touch of innovation, Sparkle discovers the power of problem solving. Now, since this is my newest book and we got some time, I'm going to read the book to you guys. All right. This little girl is Sparkle Getty. She really loves the taste of spaghetti. She begs mommy to make it each day, hoping spaghetti will be on its way. Mom is cooking, the smell is yummy, the grumbles rumble in Sparkle's tummy. The table's set, now it's time to eat. She picks up her fork, ready for her treat. And as you can see, she's super excited. She tries to twirl the spaghetti tight. The noodles fall off when it's time to bite. She tries and tries, then begins to frown. Eating spaghetti seems to bring her down. Her parents see that she's sad and blue. Eating spaghetti is so hard to do. Not giving up, Sparkle's on a quest to eat spaghetti without feeling stressed. She looks around with a frowning face for a tool to keep the noodles in place. Is there something she can use with ease? Anything that could solve her problem, please? Oh, do you see the thing Sparkle sees? That little close pin right under the keys. And guys, this is such an interactive read aloud. The kids get into it and they start pointing out stuff and they start saying, do we really think it's gonna work? And yeah, it becomes really fun. Her parents say, go give it a try. It's already clean, no need to be shy. Sparkle's got it, noodles clamped on tight. They won't release though when she tries to bite. With every try, her mood turns sour. Eating these noodles needs all her power. Her parents see she's still sad and blue. Eating spaghetti is so hard to do. Not giving up, she's still on a quest. Sparkle will solve this by trying her best. She looks around for a tool to use to grip the noodles and banish the blues. Is there something she can use with ease? Anything that could solve her problem, please? Oh, do you see the thing Sparkle sees? There's a drinking straw right next to the peas. Her parents say, go give it a try. It's already clean, no need to be shy. She sips and slurps with all of her might. The noodles get stuck, she can't even bite. With every try, she begins to pout. Spaghetti is tough, she can't help but shout. Her parents see she's still sad and blue. Eating spaghetti is so hard to do. Not giving up, she's still on a quest. Sparkle will solve this without a big mess. She looks around, searching for a clue to eat her noodles and enjoy them too. Is there something she can use with ease? Anything that can solve her problem, please. Oh, do you see the thing Sparkle sees? A knife and a spoon on the board with the cheese. Dad cuts it up so the size is small. It fits on the spoon, no problem at all. With every try, it feels like a breeze. She eats her noodles with success and ease. She scoops it up without a big fight, staying on a spoon when she takes a bite. Her parents see she's no longer blue. Eating spaghetti is easy to do. Sparkle has solved her problem with glee. A problem solver, Sparkle is indeed. With new problems, she'll have a clear mind. A good solution she'll be sure to find. When problems come, there's no need to fear. You can solve them too. Make them disappear. The end.
Very nice.
Thank you, thank you. So this book is inspired by a remarkable problem solver, Deja Taylor, a woman in STEM who uses her brains and creativity to make the world better. As a teenager, she actually created color-changing stitches that detect infections early. Deja's goal is to make life-saving medical technology more affordable and accessible to people in all communities. And that's what I mean when I say Black inspiration. This is currently my favorite book to read when I visit schools because I love to see how the children actively become part of the problem solving journey with Sparkle. They get completely into the story and then they feel like they can be problem solvers too. I also do a fun problem solving activity with them and they have the best time. Oh, and the teachers love this too because problem solving skills is certainly something they like to see in their classrooms. So in conclusion, um, Dr. Bishop's words remind us of the profound impact that children's books have on young minds. My son's provocative question led me to write my book series, my contribution to ensuring that Black children can find themselves reflected positively in the books they read, and children who aren't Black can be exposed to those stories featuring Black main characters. And yes, as an author, I focus on Black characters. But I want to emphasize that diversity in children's books or any kind of literature isn't a one size fits all endeavor. It really encompasses a rich tapestry of voices and experiences, right? We all have a role to play in diversifying literature. Let's actively support diverse authors, illustrators, and publishers, amplifying underrepresented voices. Together, we can shape a more inclusive and equitable literary landscape for all children and all people. And as writers, we have the extraordinary ability to craft stories that resonate with readers of all ages and all backgrounds. Whether you write for children or adults, your stories have the power to inspire, educate, and uplift. Each of us have a unique voice and perspective that deserves to be heard. Let's continue to write and create, knowing that someone out there needs to hear your stories. Thank you again for being here today in person and virtually. And may your words continue to enrich the world. Thank you. Any questions?
First one is
A telehandler? Yeah, it's like a combination of like a forklift and a bulldog. Like it's like two things mixed in together. You normally use it in like warehouses like Costco to um, put the goods on the shelves and stuff. So it's like a few things mixed up together. Yeah.
second one is the work you're doing is really quite profound and inspirational. Is there any particular angle or perspective that you have for getting your words out, inspiring people?
Yeah, so my perspective is like reach the masses, but I focus on schools. So you were asking earlier about marketing. I market to schools mainly, so I do. Someone was saying earlier that I take the day off today to come here, and this is my day job now. I actually left my technology job officially last month. Unofficially in December, I was on a leave of absence, but since December, I have been pretty much visiting schools every week, going to different schools, doing author visits, reading, and so I have started building up relationships with schools by putting myself out there in the community at things like Paradise Fest. Teachers shop there, right? All these different pop-up events and markets and stuff that you might see in your community. I put a booth up and I sit there and I sell books to parents, but oftentimes I meet principals, I meet teachers, I meet people who work in the districts, right? And they're like, oh, we would love to have you at our school in the district. And so I do want to focus on schools. I do want to reach parents and kids at home, but I think starting with schools has been a great way to kind of help me build up and feel like I can make this a sustainable thing. Yeah.
Have you approached Learning Tree?
Not yet, but I will write their name down.
Do you know about Learning Tree?
No, I have not. I have heard of them, but I have not dug into them.
It is a resource where teachers go
Uh-huh.
and buy things.
Okay.
So for classrooms, you can get but there's also games and activities. So when there's one not far from here, I think, and
Okay.
you can check it out. It's all about great games and toys,
Yeah.
furniture for
Okay.
young children.
I will look into Learning Tree. Like,
Are you getting your books in the school libraries?
yes.
Okay.
Actually, I got a really good email. So I've been kind of doing it bottom up. I would like to do it top down, but that's been harder, right? So I might meet a principal and I'll do something at their school and they'll buy books for the library. Some of them buy for every classroom. So all the teachers have access to use it and they started incorporating it into the curriculum. Ideally, I would like it to come from the district saying, we want to buy your books for all the schools. So I've been doing a lot of work with Elk Grove Unified School District, and I got an email yesterday morning where they said they wanted to buy a set of my books for every school in the district and doesn't already have it. So I was able to drop that off yesterday. So hopefully, my goal is to get that in every district, but Elk Grove was the first
Just
one
to
to
follow up, is there a distributor for nationwide delivery schools?
So my books are available on the Ingram Spark or whatever, but I have my like beef with like printing and quality and all this stuff with like through where my books are printed on demand. So I actually get my books wholesale and I distribute them directly to schools.
So you want to do that?
Much
because
better
you want to
quality.
control it.
Yeah. I can control the quality better. I also can, because this is my job, I can make more money off of the books that way as well.
So are you selling through Amazon too?
They are on Amazon. I don't really promote Amazon, but I keep them on Amazon for the people that would never hear about me.
Yeah.
Maybe it might come up after they do a search, but I really hate, and hate is a strong word, the print quality coming out of Amazon.
Yeah,
I like the print quality, the paper quality. These are books for kids. The minute their hands touch those books, they're like ready to be destroyed, right?
Like Ingram Spark prints it, and then Amazon orders it from Ingram Spark and then gives it to.
So I have that going for the hardcover books as well. There is a quality difference too, either with Ingram Spark, because Ingram Spark doesn't do glossy pages on the inside. Yeah, I've played around with all of it. So I really like the quality of books that I get from my printer. So I keep them available so that, like, for example, by them being on Ingram Spark, they're automatically available at Barnes & Nobles, Target, wherever books are sold, right? So I like them to be on there for that reason. I will tell you though, for a book being sold on Ingram Spark, I make pennies.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Literally pennies. So there's no way when a school district tells me they want one of my books for every school, I'm going to tell them to go to Ingram Spark, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you collecting testimonials from the district?
I am. I actually have someone working on a testimonial video for me that will now be used to get more sales. So normally I get a lot of referrals. I'll go and I'll talk at a school, and then that principal will go sing from the mountaintops to all his colleagues or her colleagues. But then they'll reach out to me, but I think being able to control those referrals now with the testimonials is going to do me a lot of justice, right? So I had a videographer go with me to several engagements. Some of them were author visits, some of them were parent family night engagements, different flavors of it, and then we got testimonials from people, and so he's putting together something really cool that I can easily share with folks.
So, kind of two questions. Do you issue both paperback and hardcover of your books?
Yes, so they're available in paperback and hardcover online.
Yeah.
I used to print them in paperback and hardcover. I'm phasing out of the paperback because I just feel like I want to offer a quality product, and I just see when a child's hand holds a paperback, what happens to it very fast. And I noticed that if people don't have to choose between the two, they have no problem paying for the hardcover, even though they're more expensive. So I have stopped, like normally I would have paperback and hardcovers sitting there. I have stopped doing that.
Yeah, I self-published a nonfiction, a juvenile nonfiction, 4th through 6th grade. And I didn't even bother putting it in paperback because it would just get destroyed.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on getting it into both public libraries and
Right,
school
exactly.
libraries. But for your printer, how did you find your own printer, and what do you give them?
Yeah, so
what do you supply to them?
Yeah, so I will recommend and sing from the mountaintops that my printer is amazing. But when I first started using them, I was like, this is interesting, because I placed my order through like Facebook Messenger. They do have a website, but this person highly recommended from a fellow author that I trusted, and I saw her work, so that's why I trusted the process.
Who are they?
There's a name to it, but I work with Bernice, so I always forget their name, and they're actually not local to the United States, they're in China. But I message her online when I'm ready to print books. I have a Google Drive where I have all my files, and she has access to that, and I just tell her how many copies I need. They have a minimum of like 500, I guess. I normally do like 1,000 at a time. Well, I'm really selling my books, I have like a storage and I put them in there, and just yesterday I had to go and get some more out. So I don't mind investing in the high quantity, because that's what makes them profitable, is when you can like buy a bunch at a time, because the more you buy, the cheaper they are. And then the shipping from China is really expensive, so to make it worth it, you gotta be able to buy a lot of books to make it worth it.
And
but I can give you guys the contact and the name of it's a legit company. The quality is great. I specifically ordered through her via chat on Facebook Messenger, but I'm sure there's other ways you can place the order.
And so do you give them the same format that you would give Ingram Spark? Okay.
I use my same file that I give to Ingram Spark. The only thing is I modify it slightly, because Ingram Spark does not do this for you on your hardcover. You see how there's like this nice inside cover? They don't do that. So I add this on for them for that file, so my books that I'm selling could be exactly how I want them to be. But it's pretty much the same ISBN as Ingram Spark and all that, because I own the rights to the ISBN, and the same cover and all that. Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions.
Good.
So I was wondering if you could talk about your illustrator.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so her name is Brianna Young. I was introduced to her through a mutual friend after I had been like scouring the earth to try to find someone that was A, responsive, and B, actually like would be a good fit. And then I was introduced to her. And so when we met, we just kind of hit it off. She was very professional, and I'm like, okay, and she showed me some of her work. I love her style, because I sometimes feel that some illustrations, and this is not to offend anyone, but I feel like some illustrations in children's books can be too glamorized, if you guys know what I mean. Like the really big sparkly eyes and the big hair that no child has in real life, and so sometimes I feel like they can not look like real people. And I know this is like illustrations, but I still want my kids reading my books to kind of feel like they resemble the characters in the book in a sense. So I thought her style was more realistic, and it worked out perfectly for what I was trying to do. So the way my process is with her is once I'm ready, we meet and I read the book to her, literally, get her excited about the book, she falls in love with it. And then I start kind of telling her what I envision, but she's the illustrator, so I don't want to influence her too much. But I give her some ideas of what I envision, and then she kind of takes that and builds on it. And we meet occasion, like there's checkpoints where we meet, and she will ask me questions about the characters and their personalities and things like that, so that she can really kind of embody that, like you see with Sparkle Getty. Lots of facial expressions, and you can see all of that. So we just have a very collaborative working process where we meet. We have milestones where I pay her every milestone. And then when she's done, she basically gives me a print ready file. She also does the book cover. She does the full layout and everything. And she gives me the file that I can upload wherever. And then whenever I need changes to it, she helps me at no cost. So it's been really good working with her. Yeah. She puts the words, the layout. I might kind of, because you notice my books rhyme, and I do feel like the layout helps to guide readers on how to read, so I will give her direction on how to lay out the words, but she puts the words on the page for me. Yeah.
So when you go to a school, or when you offer to come to a school, do you go to a specific classroom and you read your book?
So it's so standard. I have done that for some schools that have a bigger budget and don't mind having me there for a couple days and just being there, bouncing from classroom to classroom. So I have done that. But generally what I do is mini assemblies. So I do feel like to deliver a message to a group of third graders is different to deliver a message to kindergartners. So I never want to do like a large school assembly. So I ask them to break them up by grade at least. And so the grades will come in, and there's different books that work better for different grades also. So I get to kind of really tailor the message and my delivery to the grade that's coming in. So I have like a package that gives schools like up to 4 sessions, and if they want more, they can add on to it. But yeah, there's just mini assemblies that I'm doing when I'm at the school.
So you read your book, one of your books to them.
Yeah,
and you answer questions.
I do a fun activity with them to reinforce the message in the book and get them super excited. It's all about energy and making them feel like this was a good break from being in classroom type of thing. And then I answer questions and I send them off, yeah.
I hope you think about creating one inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
That's good.
That will be the last one, maybe.
Once you've done this for 40 plus years.
Yeah, that sounds like the culminating book.
You have a great message, and you've done remarkably well, given that you don't have the background.
Oh yeah, definitely don't.
Tell us about your sweatshirt, and do you have merchandise?
Yeah, I have merchandise on my website. So every book, like I mentioned, has a message in it. And what I found was that like the older kids would say, do you have something for me? Or the parents would be like, wow, I really love that message. So I do put the messages on the shirt. So this is the character from Superheroes Here and There. This is literally the illustration from Brianna that's in the book on one of the pages. And the back says Superheroes Look Like them. And so I have one almost for every book. I think I just haven't done one for the Sparkle Getty book yet because it's newer. But I have one that says different is cool. I have one that says dream big no matter your age. I have one that says work hard. No, dream big, practice often.
Do you sell those?
Yeah, they're on my website. Yeah, T-shirts and hoodies. Yeah.
Did you ever try to get traditional publishing? And we talk about that.
So I did not try because I was doing research and I was discouraged when I did the research and saw how long the process could be, how much I might lose creative control. This was something that came upon me very suddenly, and it was time sensitive given what was going on in the country. And also, I know that sometimes people who are trying to get a lot of sales, who are driven by sales, will try to water down a message or image so that the masses can consume it. And I didn't want them to do that. Like, if I have a vision of a character that is brown like how James is on a superhero book. I don't want anyone trying to water down that character and make the character appear more appealing to the masses. And I learned that like it's rare that the writer and the illustrator get to collaborate in the traditional publishing process, and I didn't want to lose that control. So for this book series, I decided that I was going to do it all myself. I have other books that I'm working on, not for this series, that I'm willing to explore traditional publishing, and maybe because I have this breadth of work under me now, they might trust my vision a little better because I still want some of the creative control. But yeah, I didn't explore it for this series.
Call the cut winner.
Sorry?
Call the cut winner.
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
if you can do that if you're not published. You deserve it.
Thank you. That is so, thank you so much.
Or a Newbery.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have won some awards, but none of those yet.
I'd like to ask you about your own personal creative process. How do you know a story is being
Yeah. So we were talking about earlier how like fiction can be so hard because you have to kind of develop a world out of nowhere and the characters out of nowhere. I actually get to cheat a little bit because my books are inspired by real people. And so what my creative process is like literally being inspired by someone. Like the death of Chadwick Boseman inspired me. And that made me want to go learn so much about him that I didn't know. And when I learned about him, I was able to start to think about how could this be relatable to a child? How might I tell this story in a way that a child could get something out of it? And so all of the books is like that. Like Gabby Douglas is someone I've always admired because I always wanted to be a gymnast, never had the resources to do it. But I admire gymnasts and what they represent. Like they represent hard work at a young age, perseverance, working hard, right? All those traits. And so I'm like, I could tell a story about that using her, right? And her story, right? That a child could be inspired and learn how to persevere through her story. So it always starts with a real person. Then once I have that person and the kind of like general message I'm trying to give, I actually write a poem, a very short poem. And because I want all my books to rhyme and use repetition, the poem helps me understand what kind of cadence the book is going to have. And then I go fill that in, build each stanza out a little more. And so that's kind of my creative process. It doesn't happen in one sitting. Sometimes I have it all in my head right away and I can like get it down on paper. But sometimes I have to walk away from it and the book writes itself in my head and I'm not thinking about it, and then I go back to it and I can write it down. But that process of just like starting small and like expanding is like what I stick to, and trying to make sure that there's repetition. Like I feel like I can turn all my books into a song because of how they're written. Yeah.
Speaking of song, what does soca sound like? Could you possibly sing like 2 measures of something? I know, I've
Can
never
I
heard
play
soca.
some to you? I can't. I'm not a singer, but we can definitely YouTube something and I can play it for you guys.
We're on Wi-Fi, you can pull up YouTube.
Yeah, I'll pull up YouTube when
I've
we're
never
done.
heard of soca.
Soca music is the most energetic. I don't know if you guys have experienced carnival, but that's what like carnival is all about. Soca music, very energetic, jumping and joy and unison with people. And yeah, I'll play some for you guys. And Marshall Montano is my favorite soca artist. And I also wanted people to kind of be exposed to that because that's part of me also. So that's why I wanted to introduce that in one of the books. Yeah.
Question.
Uh-huh.
How has your background in engineering and tech industry influenced your career, number one? And number two, if you were to go back to UC Berkeley, would you choose another major?
Good question. So in 2 ways, I do feel like I'm very structured with my approach to writing, and I do feel like that comes from the way I think as an engineer. And I wanted to bring some of that to life in one of my books at least, and that's where the problem solving book came from. It's not completely engineering, but that whole problem solving process of, you know, finding a problem and going through the process of trying to solve it, very much engineering related. So it's inspired by women in STEM. It could have very much been inspired by me, but I wanted it to be someone that, you know, people could Google and learn a lot about after they read the book. If I could go back to UC Berkeley, would I change? No, I love being an engineer and having that background. And it allowed me to get the job that I had before this. And even though I'm no longer doing that job was a blessing because it helped me launch this, right? Like it was funding this for the first 3 years, because at first it was just, I wasn't putting everything into this, so it wasn't making me the funds to be able to like keep sustaining it. And so I was saying, I used to tell my coworkers that I feel like I have 2 full-time jobs. One drains me energetically, right? But it fills up the bank account. The other one drains the bank account, which is the writing one, but it fills me up. It fills my bucket up completely. And so now I'm trying to have both of those feelings happen in the author job, hopefully. Wish me luck. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
How old were you when you moved from Trinidad?
12.
12?
Mm-hmm.
So you heard a lot of soca music.
Yeah, a lot of soca music, and I do carnival almost every year. I go to, like last year I did it in Miami. Before that, last year I did it in Miami and Hollywood. Before that, during the pandemic, they actually took it to Cancun, and so it was like a in a bubble, carnival in a bubble type of situation. So I go back to Trinidad and I do it. That's actually a big part of like what makes me feel alive, is putting on that costume and parading down the street with not a care in the world. It's great. I encourage everyone to try it.
That's the next book?
Maybe. Maybe. Who wants to hear some soca?
Sure.
And this is connected to speakers?
No, not yet, but yeah.
Okay, let's see. I can do it on my cell phone too, but it might not be that loud. I might play the whole song and start dancing and everything.
All right.
You got the space. Yeah.
Carnival
Okay,
broke
that's
out
fine.
at CH Cafe. Somebody videoed it.
Here we go.
There's a good morning.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a good one.
There he is.
Okay, how do you get the volume up on this thing?
I just want to say I commend you on figuring out what a brilliant marketing plan you have. I think it's really great. It's wonderful.
That's your engineering.
Yeah,
And marketing is the hardest part, I will say.
absolutely.
I tell people writing the book is the easy part, and then after you publish it, it's like, how do I get people to know about it? It's the most overwhelming. So I've actually gotten help too, because I'm still trying to figure out the social media, like, how do you get passive sales? How do you get people just knowing to go look for your book? I haven't figured that out. So for me right now, it's a lot of putting myself out there and really like putting time into, yeah.
It's really tough. There we go.
There she goes, dancing away.
Turn it up, turn it up.
Like yourself, like yourself, like yourself. Can you guys hear?
Not very well.
Microphone next to the speaker.
Now it's gonna sound like a robot. Everybody just gather around the computer.
I'll just go home and make a station for soca.
Yeah, go make a soca station. It's like the most energetic music. Like there's no way you can sit down and not start moving something, some body part if you hear the music.
There you go.
Can I ask what year you graduated from?
2010. Yeah, I did an extra semester.